Good afternoon, and thank you for attending my PD, Differentiation in the AIG Classroom. Information from this PD can come from Module 6 of the AIG course. My name is Kayla Brooks, and I'm a 5th grade math teacher at Belleville Elementary. This is my 10th year in education. For today's objectives, we are going to understand the elements of differentiation. We're going to learn strategies that can be used to differentiate content, process, and product. And we are going to reflect on personal experience of differentiation in the AIG classroom. To begin, we're going to define differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction can be defined as a teaching method that adjusts instruction to fit the needs of all students. This approach can allow teachers to vary instruction depending on students' strengths as well as their struggles. And differentiation takes into consideration a student's interests and preferences. This information can be found on the School of Professional Studies at Wake Forest University. According to the Teacher Survival Guide of Gifted Education, differentiation allows students to move beyond learning boundaries imposed by age and grade. That one-size-fits-all lesson does not allow all students to make continuous progress is clear. When thinking about differentiation, there are 4 modifications that can be addressed. Number 1 is content, the knowledge, understanding, and skills we want students to learn. Differentiating content involves adjusting what students learn based on readiness, interest, or learning profile. In many classrooms, this means recognizing when students need to revisit foundational or prerequisite skills to successfully access grade level standards. However, for advanced learners, it may involve compacting the curriculum, allowing them to move ahead before the rest of the class is ready, or offering enrichment opportunities that deepen complexity rather than simply increasing workload. Effective differentiation ensures that every student engages with the content that is appropriately challenging, meaningful, and accessible. To differentiate the process, we could consider this how students come to understand or make sense of the content. The process refers to the learning experiences and activities students engage in to internalize new knowledge. Because students vary widely in learning style, pace, and cognitive strengths, teachers must strategically adjust these sense-making opportunities. This may involve offering tiered activities, flexible grouping, hands-on exploration, guided inquiry, problem-based learning, or scaffolded supports. When process is differentiated well, students are not merely completing tasks, they are engaging in thinking routines and learning structures that help them retain, apply, and transfer content independently. Adjusting the process ensures that all learners encounter instruction at the right level of rigor with the right supports to help them build true conceptual understanding. When thinking of differentiating product, we can think of how students demonstrate what they know, understand, and can do. Differentiation of products focuses on providing multiple avenues for students to showcase mastery after an extended period of learning. Rather than a simple uniform assessment, students may select from varied product options such as performance tasks, presentations, written analysis, models, digital, digital creations, or real-world applications that align with the same learning goals. High-quality products require students to extend, apply, and synthesize what they have learned, often incorporating elements of creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. When product differentiation is used effectively, assessments become more authentic and meaningful, giving students ownership over their learning and allowing teachers to see true evidence of learning. With AIG students, differentiation in the classroom can be differentiated using the content, the process, or the product. Also, when we are differentiating for students, the following characteristics should be considered when planning differentiated instruction. How students' emotions and feelings impact their learning can be considered the effect. A student's current proximity to specified knowledge, understanding, and skills would be the readiness. Content that engages the attention, curiosity, and involvement of a student would be considered the interest. and a preference for taking in, exploring, or expressing content would be a student's learning profile. When thinking of differentiation, there are 12 different strategies and more that a teacher could use. Listed here are just a sample of the various processes that teachers could differentiate for their students. Using some of these, we're going to provide some classroom experience on how these differentiated strategies could look in a math classroom. The first one we're going to talk about is level of understanding, or self-reflection. Thinking of students and their content knowledge, it is important for students to also understand how they feel they're doing with the content, not just necessarily what grade they get. Using levels of understanding, it's a way for students to monitor their own learning before, during, and after. This allows students to set goals for their own learning. Listed here, the levels of understanding are level 0 to level 4. Level 0, students can ask for help because they do not understand the content yet. Level 1, students are starting to understand the content, but they understand they need more support. This may come from the teacher or it may come from a peer in the classroom. Level 2, they can do the assignment with some help, or maybe they just need an example, such as an anchor chart or a possible student to help model for them. Level 3, students can answer questions on their own and they can show what they understand. In level 4, they're very confident and they would be a good peer to have to teach another student who may be less confident. The benefits of using levels of understanding is that it provides student voice, it holds students accountable for their learning, and can help adjust the lesson or the pacing of a lesson for the teacher. If a student's level of understanding before the lesson is ranked lower than at the end of the lesson, students may feel more confident in what they've learned. Thinking of how this could be used in a classroom, you could use this at the beginning of the lesson during a learning target, have students self-assess. It could also be used during the lesson for a check for understanding, and after the lesson, using an exit ticket. Students can verbally express their level of understanding, or they can write their level of understanding on a sticky note for the teacher to see. Another strategy that we can use is student perception questionnaire. A student perception questionnaire is very similar to the levels of understanding. However, this gives a more in-depth questions for students regarding their feelings, understandings, and support after a lesson. Using this may help teachers understand more where students were struggling. The benefits of this, it is self-monitoring of emotions, it holds students accountable for their own learning, and it allows a reflection of the lesson beyond just the skill. This activity could be used at the end of a unit, the end of an activity, or at the end of a new strategy being taught. Again, this could look like in a classroom, following a lesson activity. You could also pair students to have verbal answers, or you could provide paper for a written self-assessment. Thinking of using this in a math classroom, after a new strategy is taught, students could answer questions regarding that specific strategy and how they may need more support from either a teacher or a peer. The third one we're going to talk about is questioning typology. A lot of the times, students are asked questions during a lesson, but they are not asked to expand on their thinking. In this case, these are various levels of questions that honor students should be asking and answering. When we're thinking about our AIG classroom, students should be asking each other these questions, as well as the teacher challenging the students. The benefits of these questions are they allow students to extend on their own thoughts or their peers' thoughts, and it allows for more whole group or partner discussions. Many of the times in a math classroom, the teacher can say, "Tell me more," and have a student explain or expand on the strategy that they had used. Another one that teachers could use several times is, "How might your opinion of the view be seen differently?" A lot of the times when we're thinking of the strategies used in a math classroom, students have various levels of thinking. Some students are able to explain how they were able to come up with their answer, while other students simply don't know. Asking each other these questions may allow students to not only know the steps to solve a problem, but it helps them expand on their own thinking and challenge them to see their thinking in a different way. Also, students may have more understanding listening to each other and their peers rather than the teacher explaining to them. Having the teacher ask this question to the students and having the students think, pair, share together may allow for students to expand on their thinking. How could this look in a classroom? Throughout the lesson, for checks for understanding, the teacher may ask these questions or students may ask together. As we stated before, you can pair students for verbal answers, or you could provide paper for written self-assessment. These types of questions do tend to lend more towards the verbal answers rather than paper assessments. In the AIG Classroom, differentiation is not simply an instructional option. It is an essential commitment to meeting learners where they are and guiding them towards their fullest potential. By intentionally adjusting content, process, and product, teachers create a dynamic learning environment that nurtures advanced thinking, fosters independence, and ensures that each learner is appropriately challenged. Ultimately, differentiation empowers gifted students to grow academically, emotionally, and creatively, helping them develop the skills, confidence, and curiosity needed to thrive both in school and beyond.